Hello and welcome to the video where we'll be going over Goals by Brian Tracy. Now that's my way of trying to iterate the title, and as you can see it's all in capital letters and has an exclamation point. So as you can see, Brian obviously is a very big fan of goals, or he just likes shouting, one of the two. But if you know anything about Brian Tracy, you know how eloquent his speeches are. I've watched some of them on YouTube, and I've watched, I believe, a TED Talk by him. Just magnificent. He's such a great speaker, and I really admire that in him. But another thing that I really admire, I thought about while reading this book, is just how eloquent he is within his writing as well, and how amazing it is that he can make such a hard to understand concept so succinct, and he can just boil it down to one or two sentences that make you completely understand the concept that he is trying to get across. This is a very, very good book, and Brian Tracy obviously is a veteran of the game, and his writing definitely shows how well versed he is in the success literature and how he has actually lived this for just a very, very, very long time. Now, before we get into the book, I'll tell you a little bit about the author, Brian Tracy, in case you don't know about him. He's the chairman and CEO of Brian Tracy International, a company specializing in the training and development of individuals and organizations. He's consulted for more than 1,000 companies, and as a keynote speaker, he has presented his ideas to more than 4 million people. This was probably a statistic that I got before some of his YouTube videos really blew up, because I know some of his YouTube videos definitely have 1 million views just by themselves. He's also the author of many different books. As I said, he's been in the game for a very long time. He's got other books that are very, very interesting to read. I've read a few of these books, and I intend to read the rest. But he has books called Eat That Frog, No Excuses, Focal Point, which is one that I personally am looking forward to doing a mind map on for this channel. And he's also got many, many others. I've read his book, Maximum Achievement, quite some time ago, and it was really my first foray into this success literature, this self-development books and courses and videos, and what a great introduction it was. So you can connect with Brian and his teachings at briantracy.com, or just type him into Google and you can find a million things. The man has been everywhere, and he's been in the game, like I said, for a very, very long time. Now we'll talk about the book. We'll talk about goals. So this is how Brian feels about goals. He says that success is goals and all else is commentary. And that's what I was talking about when I was saying how he is able to put such a big idea into such a succinct single sentence. Success is goals and all else is commentary. That shows you how important he believes goals to be. And after we read this book, or after we do this mind map, I'm sure you'll probably agree with him. Now the quote continues on, and he says, all successful people are intensely goal-oriented. They know what they want, and they are focused single-mindedly on achieving it every single day. If you read the biographies of any of the really successful people out there, you'll know that that absolutely is true. He also says that your ability to set goals is the master skill of success. Goals unlock your positive mind and release ideas and energy for goal attainment. Without goals, you simply drift and flow in the currents of life. And how many of us have ever felt that we were in the currents of life and the currents were taking us? He says that with goals, you fly like an arrow, straight and true to your target. Again, just so succinct with his writing. After countless talks on various themes, if I was given only 5 minutes to speak to you and I could convey only one thought that would help you be more successful, I would tell you, write down your goals, make plans to achieve them, and work on your plans every single day. And I actually watched a talk that was exactly what he opened up with. This advice, if you followed it, would be more help to you than anything else you could ever learn. Many university graduates have told me that this simple concept has been more valuable to them than 4 years of study. This idea has changed my life and the lives of millions of people, and it will change yours as well. So you can see, just with that simple quote, what we're in for here. We're going to talk about goals, but we're going to use goals as success. We're going to talk about how goals can lead to success and how you can set goals in order to lead yourself to success inside that book. And when I came across this book, and when I first started reading this book, I was doing it as preparation for my vision section of the self-coaching course. So Brian Tracy is always on point, but at first the title definitely put me off, as it probably did some of you. All capital letters with an exclamation point about goals. I feel like goals are a little bit of an overused term nowadays. So many people are talking about setting goals and how important it is to set goals that the word has almost gotten co-opted by people who don't really understand what Brian's talking about when he's talking about goals. But as I said, the way that Brian talks about goals, as I started reading, it's exactly how I talk about the vision, or how I think of the vision in my self-coaching course. He says in the book, determine the price you will have to pay in additional work, time, and commitment to achieve your goal, and then get busy paying the price. And in other words, he is talking essentially about setting your goals and then forgetting about the actual outcome, and instead focusing on the process of achieving them. I think that is so important. Quite often, goal setting is just an exercise in futility, because people will set goals and then instead of getting busy working on paying the price, what they'll do is they'll get busy on worrying that they haven't yet achieved them. So that's why I sometimes have a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to goals. But like I said, Brian is right on point here. I totally am on board with everything that he said in the book. This book is absolutely packed with inspirational wisdom. I mean, just look at this one quote: success is goals, and all else is commentary. This book is just packed full of quotes exactly like that. I recommend you pick up his book and many of his other works if you want more of this inspirational wisdom. And again, you can find him anywhere online. He's been around forever in every different medium that you could possibly want to consume. Brian Tracy is a legend in this field. You should definitely check out some of his stuff if you haven't already. So the first point, the first idea that I wanted to talk about was the fog. And the quote that really spurred this big idea on is, living without clear goals is like driving in a thick fog. Again, what a great and eloquent sentence. Living without clear goals is like driving in a thick fog. No matter how powerful or well engineered your car, you drive slowly, hesitantly, and make little progress on even the smoothest road. So no matter how good you are, no matter how good your skills are, and etc., you make little progress on even the smoothest road. Love it. He continues on with the quote, and he says, deciding upon your goals clears the fog immediately and allows you to focus and channel your energies and abilities, right? So setting the goals is what basically clears that fog and allows you to play to your full potential. Clear goals enable you to step on the accelerator of your own life and race ahead rapidly towards achieving more of what you really want. Such a great analogy. So we'll talk a little bit about clearing the fog. So have you been feeling uninspired? That's essentially what this fog is, right? That feeling of being uninspired and not moving quickly towards your goal, essentially, or towards your vision, as I would say. It's likely because you don't have that clear sense of vision or goals in mind. And together, exactly what we're going to go through, these 21 different steps, we'll go over exactly how Brian shows us how to set them in this book and make them into a reality. He not only goes through exactly how to set your goals, he not only goes through what to do in order to achieve them, but he ends it all off with this 21st step, which is essentially about self-discipline, which I think, again, is the most important part of setting the goals or setting an intention or trying to achieve a vision. For now, you can simply ask yourself about the fog, do I know what my vision is? And have I connected with that vision lately? So if you, at one point in time, thought you had a vision, but it's been months, years, heck, even a few weeks since you've looked at that vision and envisioned that vision, you're not really connected with it anymore. And the fog is slowly starting to seep in, and you don't know what direction you should be chasing in. And that's giving you that feeling of uninspiration, or you're feeling uninspired. And then you could also ask yourself, how are my daily actions contributing to that vision? That's also so important. If you don't know your vision, obviously you don't know how your daily actions are contributing to that vision. But if you have daily actions that are not contributing and you do have a vision, that might even be a worse spot. Why are you not chasing after that vision? Are you potentially afraid of the outcome, or do you not really have a strong connection to that vision? Because essentially, to me, a vision is like a magnet. And once you have a clear set vision, what ends up happening is you are pulled along this path by a magnet. You don't have to push yourself in order to do things. You don't have to pull yourself in order to get yourself to achieve the things that you want to achieve, or have the habits that you need to have in order to accomplish this goal. You wake up with a clear sense of what you should be doing and a desire to do it. And that's exactly what we're going to try and do in the 21 steps. We're going to start with creating your vision. So the 21 steps. Here's the quote in the book that most clearly outlines the 21 steps. He says that the most important quality you can develop for lifelong success is the habit of taking action on your plans, goals, ideas, and insights. The more often you try, the sooner you will triumph. There is a direct relationship between the number of things you attempt and your accomplishments in life. Oh, I love this point because, again, so many people are setting goals and they're not actually taking action towards those goals. And he says the most important quality you can develop for lifelong success is the habit of taking action on your plans, goals, ideas, and insights. So important. There is a direct relationship between the number of things you attempt and your accomplishment in life, right? It's quite often talked about in a lot of different business books. How quickly can you fail? Because failure is probably going to happen. It's a very high likelihood that failure will happen along the way to success. 99% of people that are successful have failed at one point in time. How quickly can you get there? How quickly can you take that action towards your goal, plans, ideas, and insights, and then bounce back from that failure in order to make a more well-informed decision towards your goal? So he says, here are the 21 steps for setting and achieving goals and for living a wonderful life. So this is quite a big list that we have going on here, but we'll start with number 1. Unlock your potential. Step number 1, unlock your potential. And by no means do I have enough time to be able to go over every single step in depth. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what I believe each step means. And if you want more in-depth analysis on what to do in each step, you should pick up the book. But unlock your potential. Brian says that our potential is unlimited. And one of the questions that he talks about with unlocking your potential is, what would you do if you couldn't possibly fail? And when you're setting a vision or an intention or a goal, you really need to have this sense of, I can't possibly fail. Because when you have that, you're willing to actually set goals that inspire you. And Tony Robbins says that people aren't lazy, they just have impotent goals. That is, goals that do not inspire them. And you can't set goals that inspire you if you have this limiting belief that you could potentially fail at that goal. You need to get that completely out of your head. Step number 2 is to take charge of your life. And in essence, this is the proactive habit from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And you can't accomplish anything unless you're willing to take responsibility for yourself, for that thing, or for yourself, essentially. That's basically what taking charge of your life is. And you can see that before we even start setting goals, we're doing a bunch of things. We're doing actually 4 other steps before we do that. So what future would you create if you had no limits? This is essentially the vision. This happens before the goals, essentially, right? Next, we're going to clarify our values, which values, of course, are very, very important. You have to think, what's important to you? What do you value? Successful people are living their lives from their values. For example, one of my values is to create win-win relationships in all of my business dealings. I want to make sure that I get paid well enough to be able to continue giving more value. And I want to make sure that the people that are getting the value that I'm giving are paying a fair price in order to receive the value that I'm giving. It has to be a win-win relationship, or else I won't make a deal. It's another part of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Next, step number 5 is determine your true goals. You want clarity around them. You want to make sure that you're absolutely clear on what your goals are and what do you really want. And again, same thing. You have to make sure that you've already unlocked your potential. What would you do if you could not possibly fail? And what do you really want within that? And then you need to decide on your major definite purpose, something that he talks quite a lot about in the book. What's the one thing that if you accomplished it would have the most positive impact on all of your other goals? And this is something that we could look at in The One Thing by Gary Keller. He says, essentially, what is the one thing that I could do so that doing everything else would be easier or unnecessary? That's essentially this step right here. It's giving you what the major definite purpose is. Then you need to analyze your beliefs. What are your beliefs? Limiting, potentially empowering. These are guiding you much more than you are even aware of. And we can learn more about this in What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter, and how our programming and our beliefs is really what leads our lives for us. Very, very interesting stuff there, the power of the subconscious mind. Next, step number 8 is start at the beginning. Now, he says, where are you right now in related to your vision? I'm just going to close up some of these so we're not taking up the whole entire map. He says, where are you right now in relation to your vision? So this is essentially point A on the GPS. After we've done a little bit of the clearing of the fog, we have to decide where is the actual starting point that we want to go to, or where we want to start from, or where are we starting from. And after you know that, then you can figure out how to measure your progress. You can set up a system to measure your progress towards your goal. And the next part is to remove all the roadblocks. So these are going to come up along the way. You're going to run into things that you could not possibly have seen along the path. And you need to just resolve yourself to be a problem solver. And this is the easiest way to get over the roadblocks. Whenever you come up to a roadblock, look at it as a problem to solve, not as a problem. So you want to make sure that you're a problem solver and not a problem seer. Very, very interesting. Again, you want to become an expert in your field. I really believe that this is one of the most important things when it comes to all success. And Brian says that we can be in the top % of whatever field that we choose. And if you just make this a goal, if this is part of your determining what your true goal is, and if this is part of your major definite purpose, of course, if you are an expert in your field, top 10%, that is going to make everything easier or unnecessary, isn't it? If you're really that good, you're not going to have to learn a lot of the things that people who aren't really that good might have to learn. Great way to think about it. Make this a goal and just don't stop until you get there. Now, I heard this from somewhere, and I apologize that I can't attribute the quote, but I heard someone say once that if you read just 1 hour a day in your chosen field for 7 years, you will become top 10% in that field. If you actually focus and read just 1 hour a day. How small of an amount of time is that? Very interesting. Associate with the right people. Spend some time with the people who inspire you. That's so true. You are the result of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Make sure that you're auditing that friend group frequently. And then, next, step number 13 is to make a plan of action. Create your plan, right? You've got a way to measure your progress. You remove the roadblocks by becoming a person who's going to solve problems no matter what. You've dedicated yourself to become an expert in the field, and you've surrounded yourself by other people who are potentially experts in their chosen field, or maybe even in your chosen field. And then you're going to create that plan and dynamically respond to what arises by removing those roadblocks and becoming that problem solver. The next part is to manage your time well. Step number 14, manage your time well. And I would say that this is mostly about focusing on your one thing and eliminating all of your distractions. If you're going to become an expert in your field, you're going to need to spend a copious amount of time studying and learning and acting on the knowledge that you are gaining on a daily basis. And you're going to need to really focus on one thing. You're going to need to know how to work deeply on that one thing as well. Deep Work by Cal Newport, a great book to read. He says to review your goals daily. Brian believes in viewing your goals every single day, and I think that's a great way to go about it. You should visualize your future as a way to continually strengthen that magnet that we talked about before. He says visualize your goals continually so you can see how much we need to be visualizing and reviewing our goals. Spend some time seeing your future in your mind, and that's why I like the word vision so much. Is vision leads itself to visualizing so well. And then he wants you to activate your subconscious mind. And again, we talked about the power of the subconscious mind before, and we talked about what to say when you talk to yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. Very, very good book. I'll leave a link to it down below. But the subconscious mind is much more powerful than the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is the ocean, and the conscious mind is just a drop of water as far as the power goes. And we are really in control of the programming of our subconscious mind. And we need to make sure that we're programming it well, feeding it the correct information and feeding it the empowering beliefs and values that it needs. So you also need to remain flexible. So this is similar to some of the other things that we talked about, becoming the problem solver. Sometimes you run into roadblocks that you can't possibly solve. So you have to remain flexible at all times. A willingness to potentially change your goals slightly once you run into a roadblock that is insurmountable. Successful people are flexible. They're willing to change their goals. When new information comes in, they can respond and not react. Respond. So respond would be taking in the information and making the best possible response, or taking the next best possible action to the situation, instead of reacting, which is quickly trying to solve the situation, not taking into account all of the information. We would all do much, much better if we could learn to respond and not react. He also says to unlock your inborn creativity, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the great question point coming up next, in the mind storming point coming up next. So I won't go too much deeper into that one. He says do something every single day. I really believe this as well. Momentum is so important, and I shouldn't have to say too much more about it because almost all the books that we do on this channel talk about momentum. And I'll say one thing, and one thing only, is that from James Clear's book, he says, don't miss twice. Don't miss twice. I love that point. Don't miss 2 days in a row. And then persist until you succeed. I mean, that's really the end all and be all. Persistence is just self-discipline in action, and we'll talk about self-discipline in a later point, but it's the true measure of the belief in yourself. We talked about this before, but really number 1 and number 21 are very connected. Unlock your potential is having this true belief in yourself, and number 21 is the measure of that belief in yourself. So you can see that all of the things that are coming in the middle here, which are actions, creating your own goals, and being able to solve problems and etc., are sandwiched by a belief in yourself. So the belief in yourself is obviously very, very important. So again, those are the 21 steps. I would say I just did a brief overview of each one of these. And if you want to go in depth and really understand what each point in the book is saying in those 21 steps, I recommend that you pick up the book and give it a quick read. Here are a couple of the main points that I would underscore. These are either points of the 21 steps or just other points that Brian made in the book. The first one is about self-trust. So he says, self-trust is the foundation of greatness. Self-trust comes from listening to your intuition, to your still small voice within. Men and women begin to become great when they begin to listen to their inner voices and absolutely trust that they are being guided by a higher power each step of the way. This is such a beautiful sentence, because this is almost, if you've done any sort of therapy or potentially psychedelics or anything like that, you'll understand what he's talking about here. This small voice inside of your head that is the truth, and a continually present and guiding truth in yourself that quite often gets drowned out by other people's programming, or even by programming that you're giving yourself. But this voice is what can guide you towards that vision that you truly have for your life. And the more that you can listen to that still small voice, the easier it will be to accomplish what you want to accomplish. He continues to say, he says, living in alignment with your true values is the royal road to self-confidence, self-respect, personal pride. In fact, almost every human problem can be resolved by returning to values. And I found this so much to be true. And again, I can't say how amazing he is at articulating these ideas that are very complex, even in my own head, much more so than even putting it on paper. Quite amazing. He has been living this for a very, very long time. He continues to go on and say, whenever you experience stress of any kind, look into yourself and say, in what way am I compromising my innermost values in that situation? So again, if you're experiencing stress in some way, shape, or form, you are compromising on your innermost values. You are going against what that still small voice in your head is telling you to do. So we'll talk a little bit about clarifying your values, because he says that once you have a clear sense of your values and living in alignment with those true values, that's the royal road to self-confidence, self-respect, and personal pride. And wouldn't we all like a little bit more of those? So moving on, we're going to say, before we can trust ourselves, we must know ourselves. And this comes from having the clarity of values. So knowing your values can really only come from reflection. And reflection is just basically taking quiet time and listening to that still small voice in your head. But one way that you can get around it, or one way that you can get more to that still small voice, because sometimes it can be hard to hear because the volume of our daily lives are quite often very loud. But you can ask yourself questions like this. What do I really stand for? Who is the person that I most want to be? What are your most important values? And what values do I most look for in others? And those questions will often stir quite a storm up in your head, and your still small voice will be able to answer them, and you'll be able to connect more to your values. And then it's just a process of trying to live by those values as much as you possibly can. The next big idea that I pulled out was the great question. And I really like this one as well. Each one of these points I could do an entire mind map on, I'm sure. He says in the book that my favorite word in goal setting and in success in general is clarity. there is a direct relationship between the level of clarity you have about who you are and what you want and virtually everything you accomplish in life. And again, it's essentially the same thing. It's quiet time, listening to that still small voice, getting clarity on what you truly, truly want. Do you see how much deeper this book is than just goal setting, or the goal setting that maybe you have been taught in the past? How important this is to set goals and really get this from the inner sense of yourself, rather than set goals based on guideposts that other people have programmed into you. He continues to say, he says, successful men and women invest the time necessary to develop absolute clarity about themselves and what they really want, like designing a detailed blueprint for a building before they begin construction. Exactly. Successful men and women take the time. It takes a lot of time necessary to develop absolute clarity. A lot of time to develop that clarity, but it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. One of the greatest things that I have ever done in my entire life was to start therapy, to start meditation, to really get clarity on who I am and what I want to accomplish. And that's one of the main reasons that I'm speaking to you today. This is my vision. This is my clarity, is to help you guys learn some of these great ideas from some of these great teachers in a way that will allow you to take something away and really improve your life. So the next part of the quote goes, one of the most important questions in goal setting is this. What do I really want to do with my life? And if I could be, do, or have anything at all in life, what would it be? You should return to this question over and over again in the months and years ahead. Talks about, and we'll talk a little bit about investing in clarity. Having clarity around your goals is very important, so it's time to invest now. If you've been putting this off, start today. I know we're mostly focused on action, right? A lot of the things we talk about on this channel are about action, things that you can do. That's how I think people best learn, is based on action. And it's really great because action does actually create clarity. It kind of is this process, right? You have to come from clarity, and then the more action you take, the more clarity you get. But you need to know which direction you truly want to start out in before action is even worth anything. So spend the time getting clear. So in other words, where do you want to go is very, very important. Truly, if you know truly where you want to go, then action will be important. But if you are taking action on things that other people have programmed into you, or other things that you think would make people like you more, make you more popular or successful in other people's eyes, you have to be very careful, because you're taking action and you'll learn lots of things and you'll gain clarity, but they will be about the wrong things, and you won't notice it until very late in your life, probably. So we'll talk a little bit about creating clarity. How can we create clarity in our lives? Ask yourself, what do you really want? What do you really want to do with your life? And spend time meditating on this and thinking about this. I mean, this one question could take you an entire lifetime to really understand, but the act of asking the question will get you closer than the act of ignoring the question. So this is a little bit more about the major definite purpose that we talked about in the 21 steps before. What goal, if you achieved it, would have the most possible impact on all your other goals? So what thing, after you have the clarity, what thing could you do to have the most positive impact towards what you truly, truly want? So this is the first thing that you should look to accomplish. And then the next step after that is determine the price you'll have to pay in additional time, work, commitment to achieve your goal, and get busy paying the price. Exactly like we talked about in the introduction. It's important to get clear on your vision, get clear on your goals, and after you have that true clarity about what you really want, it's about getting busy paying the price. Very, very interesting. I love this part. It's a little bit deeper probably than you thought you were going to get in this book that has all capital letters and has an exclamation point at the end, but this is a very deep book, and Brian Tracy is a very deep man. So the next idea that we're going to talk about is mind storming, and this is an idea that I really have used to its full potential with these mind maps. So we'll talk about this. The most powerful technique for improving your intelligence and increasing your creativity is what I call mind storming. So the way it works is pretty simple. But the results you'll get will be so amazing, and it can be life-changing. He says that you need to begin the mind-storming process by first getting a sheet of paper. At the top of this page, you write your goal problem in the form of a question. The simpler and more specific the question, the better you will be able the better the quality of the answers that you'll generate in response to it. Sorry, I must have typed that quote down wrong. Each of your answers should be written using the 3P formula. It should be personal, positive, and in the present tense. In other words, your answers should be written as affirmations or instructions from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind. And this is why I think that this is so important. After you have your vision, you should turn it into instructions for your subconscious mind, which is essentially exactly what we do in the self-coaching course. We work on your vision, we work on really finding out what you truly want in life, and then we go about programming the subconscious mind with these positive affirmations and instructions from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind, so you can harness the power of this amazing ocean of subconscious mind. So it's essentially what I built the vision section of my self-coaching course about. The first step we do is mindstorm your vision in several different domains of life. These are the domains of life that I think are important: health, mind, emotions, relationship, career and business, social life, finances, and spiritual life. What do you want your life to look like in all 7 different domains of those things? And then during the process, I give simple questions. And that, again, the better the questions you ask, the simpler the questions you ask, more specific questions you ask, the better the quality of the answers will be. So some of the questions that I ask are, what does your ideal body look and feel like? Or how does your ideal mind think and feel emotions? And what are your most important relationships in your vision of the future, of course? Helping to guide you through the process of creating a grounded and thorough vision for your future. And then exactly like I said right after that, what we do is we write them down as affirmations or instructions. And we create an audio format, self-programming CD, essentially, similar to what Dr. Shad talks about in his book that I've mentioned several times on this video, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. Very great book about programming and taking over power of this amazing tool of the subconscious mind that all human beings have access to. So the final point here that we're going to make is about self-discipline. And again, this is essentially, we talked about it again, persist until you succeed. And persist until you succeed is obviously the last point, but it also, I think, is probably the most important. Persistence is just self-discipline in action. So again, Brian says this in his book: the single most important quality for success is self-discipline. Self-discipline means that you have the ability within yourself, based on your strength of character and willpower, to do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. And isn't that the truth? I mean, so many times we'll start out on a path and all of a sudden we get, a few months down the path and it just isn't as fun as it was in the beginning. But you need to have the persistence. You need to have the self-discipline and the ability within yourself, based on your strength of character, willpower, to do what you should do, when you should do it, and whether you feel like it or not. So he goes on to say that character is the ability to follow through on a resolution after the enthusiasm with which the resolution was made has passed. It's not what you learn. It is not what you learn that is decisive for your future. It is whether or not you can discipline yourself to pay the price over and over until you finally obtain your objective. So again, quite often what we'll do is we'll set this goal that has an end point. So say, for example, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to make, $20,000 or whatever it is, right? But eventually we've set out on this path to achieve this thing. And 2 months, 3 months, 6 months down the line, things just aren't as fun as they were when we first started. We just don't have the same enthusiasm with which the resolution was made. So we have to resolve ourselves to continually pay the price over and over until you finally obtain the objective, even if it's not fun, if it's not exciting. We need to have that self-discipline. So again, this comes all from step number 21, which is to persist until you succeed. He says that self-discipline is the single most important quality for success. It allows us to persist until we succeed. And even when things are not fun, exciting, or immediately rewarding, which most of the time when we're setting a goal, there's going to be some sort of a point that things are not fun, things are not exciting, and things are not immediately rewarding. I mean, that's the only reason that we would need to set the goal, or else we would have already done it. Everyone knows that at the beginning of any endeavor, it is usually fun, exciting, and immediately rewarding. And eventually it becomes a little bit difficult, or even a lot difficult. Roadblocks come up, the fun fades, excitement diminishes. And self-discipline is needed here. You've set your intentions. Now you simply need to persist until you succeed. And I believe that self-discipline really is a skill. A lot of people look at it as an innate quality that you either have or you don't have. You know, Navy SEALs have this amazing self-discipline, and people who are extremely overweight maybe don't have this extreme discipline. And I believe it's a skill that you can learn. And this is the way that I think that you could learn it. I believe that like I said, I believe it's a skill and something that you can learn. It's almost like a habit. It's more like a principle, but it's almost like a habit that can be transformed into multiple different domains. So start by setting your mind on your single most important goal right now, exactly like we talked about in the beginning of this video. And then simply just follow the course until success. That's what you need to do. Set a small goal and follow the course until success. Push through those obstacles, those roadblocks that are going to come up. Push through the fun fading, the excitement diminishing, and do it just one time. You owe it to yourself to try and do this one time, to have self-discipline on this one goal, this one time. Because once you felt the amazing feeling of success after that perseverance, right? The perseverance is horrible. It is very difficult. But after you feel that amazing feeling of success after that perseverance, because it tastes so much sweeter after you've actually had to work for it, it will become easier the second time, and then the third time, and then it will just simply become a way of life. And that's what I would like to leave you with, is to cultivate that skill of self-discipline. After you've spent the time to set your vision and your intentions for your life, simply focus on cultivating the skill of self-discipline. And with that, I'll leave you with the mind map. If you want to get the copy of the mind map, there's a link for it down below. If you'd like to get into my self-coaching course, in which I use quite a lot of the things that are coming out of Brian Tracy's book, this goals book, and also his other books as well, then you can get that at the link down below. Thanks for being with me today, and I'll see you again in the next one.